As we strive to be good neighbors with those who live around us, we need to be seeking after peace. Solomon makes the statement in Proverbs 17 and verse 19 that he who loves transgression loves strife, but he who raises his door seeks destruction. Solomon connects transgression and strife with one another, and those who are wicked are the ones who love strife. Therefore, those who are righteous ought to be striving to maintain peace with their fellow man. He goes on to say in chapter 21 and verse 10 of the book of Proverbs that the soul of the wicked desires evil, and his neighbor finds no favor in his eyes. Because the wicked man loves transgression and strife, he will be looking for trouble. Therefore, his neighbor finds no favor in his eyes. And one who is looking for something to criticize is going to find it, even if that charge is something that is unfair. But in contrast, the righteous man desires peace and goodwill among his neighbors. Therefore, he will work to maintain peace whenever such is possible. Solomon says, keeping away from strife is an honor for a man, but any fool is going to quarrel, Proverbs 20 and verse 3. And just as the wicked man desires evil and is looking for some reason to be critical of his neighbor, the fool is looking for some reason to argue with his neighbor. Though there are certainly occasions that warrant honorable discussion and debate, the fool seeks to argue simply for the sake of honoring. The honorable course, though, is to avoid strife whenever possible. Solomon he adds to this point, do not go out hastily to argue your case. Otherwise, what will you do in the end when your neighbor humiliates you? Argue your case with your neighbor, and do not reveal the secret of another, or he who hears it will reproach you, and the evil report about you will not pass away. Proverbs 25, verses 8 through 10. But friends, all too often, men foolishly desire to make their private quarrel with a neighbor known to everybody else. Yet when we have a complaint against someone in a personal or private matter, we ought to go to that person first and try to resolve the issue. But instead, we immediately turn our private disputes into public quarrels. In doing this, we may be humiliated and receive reproach if we are the ones found to be in the wrong. It's better to keep private matters private whenever possible, rather than to risk our own reputation and threaten any hope of future peace with our neighbor. Solomon says that a man of violence entices his neighbor and leads him in a way that is not good, Proverbs 16:29. And the man of violence is one who seeks his neighbor's destruction. Through evil motives and wicked scheming, he entices his neighbor to follow after him. The man of violence will be punished by the Lord, as Solomon sets forth in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 31 through 33. And his neighbor that follows him is going to suffer the same fate. We read that a brother who is offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and contentions are like the bars of a citadel. Proverbs 18 and verse 19. It's very difficult to repair a damaged relationship. And Solomon uses the analogy of capturing a strong city to illustrate this point. No, this is a difficult task. It's easier than trying to win back one who has been offended. The contentions that arise between brethren, as Solomon says, are like the bars of a citadel, keeping out those who are unwelcome, such as the offending brother. And we should take care not to damage the relationships that we have with others. And often these severed ties are difficult to restore, and sometimes the damage is completely irreparable. And Solomon says, let your foot rarely be in your neighbor's house, or he will become weary of you and hate you, Proverbs 25 and verse 17. In trying to be good neighbors, some will take it upon themselves to visit and spend time with them to show their neighbors that they really value their relationship. And oftentimes this is done with the best of intentions, but it can be interpreted much differently by one's neighbor. And while it is a very good thing to be friendly, we also need to respect the privacy of others and not impose when we are not welcome. If a neighbor has invited us into his home, then we must be careful not to overstay our welcome, or else the good feelings that he had for us become exhausted, and he learns to resent us. Friends, we want to thank you for joining us for our program today, and may God bless you with a wonderful day.